Good morning. What I wanted to talk about is when DataOne got started, we have a working group called the Usability and Assessment Working Group. And one of the things that they've done is actually survey different of our stakeholder groups. And in particular, one I wanted to share with you is they contacted researchers. They did a survey of 1,329 researchers in different domains in academic, government, nonprofit, and commercial environments. And what they were trying to do is get their perceptions and practices for data sharing. And this is what they found out is, and they published an article on it, and that's what you saw on the previous page. And what they were saying is that 84% want to use other researchers' data, that 81 said they're willing to share, and it's also appropriate to create new data sets from existing data. But what was also interesting is only 6% share all of their data. They're willing to share some of it, but not all. The other thing they don't know how to do is they don't know how to share it necessarily or how to get proper credit for it. And this is another really important point. If you look, they were asked what metadata standards they use. The majority said either MyLab or no metadata standard whatsoever, which makes sharing data actually quite difficult. So some solutions to this problem is we need to make it easy to describe the data. We have to be able to give proper credit when we are using it, and actually make it easier for other scientists to find the data that they're looking for. And another possible solution are mandates, especially if they're funded. So DataOne has on our website, we've put together some working groups, and we've come up with a database of best practices and software tools to try and address the education component of sharing data and how to share it. We've also been making it much easier to describe the data. We have a collaboration that we worked with Microsoft Research, California Digital Library, and the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation. On the tool, there are two tools that well, one's a repository, but DataUp is a tool that is an actually add-on to Excel worksheets. It turns out in environmental data, and probably not just environmental data, the tool that most researchers use are Excel spreadsheets, and this shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. So what DataUp is it's an add-on to Excel spreadsheet that promotes better practices and better metadata. OneShare is a repository where they can upload their data and either just preserve it or ideally share it with others. So what it does is they, OneShare, started up at the top there. They have a spreadsheet, and once they, DataUp is a web application or an add-on to Excel. And what it does is you load your spreadsheet, and it points out all the things that are not helpful when it comes to sharing data. In particular, there's color coding. What does the color code mean? There's different combinations on a particular sheet. There are blank lines. It's hard for other people to understand what's going on. So what DataUp does is it says these are issues that would make sharing your data very difficult, and here's some alternatives that you might consider. In addition, it also helps them create metadata for that particular spreadsheet. And once the metadata has been created, then it gives them the option of where they could upload their data to preserve it. And that particular repository is called OneShare. Another way that DataOne is working with our collaboration, our Dryad repository has journal data and metadata together. So this is a way that people can get credit for sharing their data, but it also allows researchers who read an article to find the data that is in support of that article. So they prepare the manuscript, they can upload the data, and actually this ties into a mandate because some journals are now requiring that in addition to the article, you need to share the data and upload the data that goes with it. So The other advantage of this is that you have an article, you have a description of the article. The article has a DOI that allows you to access a specific article. But now you also have a DOI for the data that goes along with it. The data package refers back to the article, and the article refers to the data. So you've got linkage between data and articles. So DataOne is all about promoting data discovery. So we have the different aspects of our building community. The center slide is the search engine that we have to find data sets in DataOne, and we're also working on tools that contribute and promote the data lifecycle, which is the one on the far right. So DataOne has three components. We have coordinating nodes that cover a space across the U.S. What they do is they upload the metadata, not the data, just the metadata. We index it to make search very easy, and each of the coordinating nodes is identical of the other, so that if one happens to go down, that you still have accessibility. There's one in California, one in New Mexico, and one on the Oak Ridge UT campus. We have different member nodes. Member nodes are existing repositories that have added the DataOne software around them so that they can now be federated. So we have a network of repositories, and this is an example of some of the ones that we have right now. Our emphasis is on environmental data. And the third component of DataOne are tools. So in addition to connecting together the member nodes or repositories, we've also got tools that allow search. They're add-ons to existing tools that scientists are already familiar with. So in particular, we have an R add-in that allows researchers to describe their data so that when they share their R applications with each other, instead of having to recode their R application, you can access data sets in the DataOne Federation. So the other thing that we've been working with are different kinds of metadata. So these are different types that we use that are in the DataOne Federation at this point. So we support FGDC, ISO, EML, Ecological Metadata Language, and some others. And what we do is once the data is in the network, the advantage of all of this is the metadata is extracted and it's aligned so that you have different types of data coming in with different metadata standards, but now they get aligned. We add some metadata to it to say where the data came from. So this is system metadata, and all of it gets indexed in the internal set. We have a search engine, OneMercury, which is based on Mercury, which is used at the Oak Ridge National Lab DAC. And in addition, we have the tools. So once data is in the DataOne Federation, all these tools can work on the data because it now understands the metadata that they are using. The advantage of this is just an example with the University of California Merit System. It had its own system of users, and they were using it. By becoming a DataOne member node, they now have access. The different tools can work on that particular set of data, and in addition to their own users, they have the DataOne users. So the data that is in this member node gets a much higher visibility across for different researchers. So there's still some remaining challenges. We're also working on semantic mediation. It's not sufficient just to do crosswalks across different metadata standards. We're working on provenance so that you can understand the history behind the data that you're using. As people download data, you want to keep track of what they're doing, and we're working on that. And we're also trying to improve metadata quality over time. So these are some of the examples of what we're doing with semantics and just adding in formal ontologies and topic models and working on that. We're also working on the provenance. Again, where did the data come from, what did you do to it, who owns it, and what's been done to it as far as different computations. So the other thing we also do is we do a lot of workshops and classes with trying to teach researchers best practices or and make them aware of what tools are out there. And so this shows a timeline for planning your data, doing the collection, working on quality assurance. The documentation is a large portion of the time. This is where the metadata is being added, and then actually making researchers aware of the need to archive. And ideally, mandates always help. The survey that was done, that I talked about, was actually done before NSF had a required data management plan. And we are now going back and doing another follow-up survey to see if we see any changes as far as that goes after a mandate came about.